Welcome back to the Throwing Chairs podcast brought to you by the Hoosier Network. I'm Audrey Marr, joined as always by Joe Cronin, Thomas Crow. Happy Thursday, everybody. How's everyone doing?
Doing swell. We're repping, I don't have USA hockey, but I thought, got a Kraken jersey for no particular, it's a nameless one. I'll spin around.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Nameless Kraken, got it for Christmas. I got family in
Kraken.
Seattle, so, sure, I'm a Kraken fan, but also it's just sick. It's the Kraken.
It's a
Hockey.
nice jersey.
It's
It's a cool
hockey.
jersey.
Big octopus, it's hockey. And, the Four Nations final tonight, so rep
Yeah.
the brand, USA. Gonna be biased because I do live in the United States, so go America, roar Eagle.
USA.
Mhm.
USA.
Gotta defeat the nation up top.
Of course.
And me and Audrey are matching.
The
Yeah.
team up north.
Actually, we just did not come up with that at all, but
Well,
here we are.
were all gonna wear Kraken jerseys, but
Yeah.
it just didn't
It
work.
got a little
That
bit
would've been
mixed
so
up in
cool.
translation, but it would have worked out. But how are you, Thomas?
I'm good. I'm very good.
Good.
It's been so long since we've been back to our home.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to be here.
Studio 8A, home of the media school. But let's get right into it. Let's kind of talk about UCLA. I know it happened a little bit ago, but obviously 72 to 68 lost in crunch time again. Overall, what did you guys see from that? What was kind of the downfall?
I mean, it's the same story we've seen for
Exactly.
how many games in a row now? I don't even know. It's just
Too many.
you go down big or by double digits at some point in the first half, then they come back, the crowd gets into it, and then the other team puts it away at the end of the game. They tried to go in the zone at the start of the game, and UCLA was just able to work through it, whether it was with a 3-ball, just get their guys at the high-low action. That just wasn't working. And at the end of the game, they just are missing something. It just wasn't good. The missed shots. I mean, Mackenzie Mbaka was, 6 of 17 on the night. Just not great. I guess if you can look at one positive was Renew off the bench, looked sharp in his minutes played, 14 points and some solid efficiency. I don't know. It's just, it feels like we're just beating a dead horse with broken record, just the same thing over and over again. This team's, it seems like they're playing like their coach is about to head out the door. Not to point out the obvious, but it's like, how much more fight do you have when it's just the train is clearly off the tracks at this point?
Yeah, you know that you're gonna miss March Madness, almost guaranteed. Your coach is gone. I agree. I mean, how hard are these guys really gonna fight? But somehow it came down to, once again, end of game, just something not going right. For the first time at the end of the game, they actually got a good look. And neither of them went in. I went back and I was on the far side balcony watching the final possession. I didn't get a great view of the layup. From my view, it just looked like he missed it. Went back a couple times. I think what happened was he went up expecting to get hit, and the defender just kind of pulled the chair on him. He just kind of overshot it. So McKenzie misses that. And then on the inbounds pass, Miles breaks open from the left corner to the right block. He's open for about a half second. McKenzie misses him, gets it in bounds, hits a little jab, a little juke step, and then gets to the corner. Best look they've had at the end of any game so far. Would have taken the lead, and it just didn't go.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that shot, I think, is reminiscent of just any shot of all season. That was the one that explains it.
Yeah, and honestly, outside of the first 15 minutes, really, they played better than UCLA did.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe the 3-point shooting, but I mean, that's kind of.
Well, I mean, there was a 7-minute occurrence in the first half of not scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
7:30,
they honestly played a fine brand of basketball. I mean, 43 points in the second period. That's all right, there you go. But it's just same old story. I don't know how many times we can keep saying this.
Exactly. It's the same story. Poor first half. You have a great start to the second half, but you can't put it away in the end. Again, like you said, it was the best look that they had, but they just didn't put it away. First half, I mean, they were shooting 32% from the field, 2 for 13 from beyond the arc. It kind of, like you said, they tried the zone, wasn't working. Kind of looked like the whole defensive scheme was a bit all over the place. I think there was also just a lot of pressure to try and make the zone work because that's how it was working against Michigan State. You beat the number 11 team on the road. And I think that's just, they kind of go with what works in the moment, but then they don't kind of try and make it work in the spurts that they need to make it work in. And then I think another thing that was a bit overlooked was when Mackenzie Mbaka went down. He had 6 of Indiana's 10 points at that point. Then UCLA goes on a 15-5 run. That's when Indiana completely begins to lose its momentum. Mackenzie Mbaka was really the only one that was giving them momentum at that point in time. Then he didn't play the rest of the second half. Then he ends as the second leading scorer in the game. So I don't know. I think it was really just the momentum that they lost. They're only playing in spurts. They're not actually playing all 40 minutes.
Yeah, I would like to point out, too, when we did our podcast last week, I was the lone person who picked UCLA to win.
There you go. Congratulations,
Not to
Joe.
pat myself on the back or give myself a round of applause, but
No, we'll give it.
Yeah.
We'll give it to you.
there
And
we go.
I think probably the biggest part of the entire game was last minute Indiana's fighting to get back. I think they were down 6 or 7 with 2 minutes to go. Keep starting to kind of push back, but there were a lot of timeouts in that last little break, review, stuff like that. That lady on the Jumbotron, that was
That's
amazing.
the best thing about Assembly Hall. all
she
season.
got them back into the game.
Yeah.
The place
I'm going to need an
exploded.
explanation here. I wasn't.
There-
I was
Oh my
elsewhere.
gosh.
There was a woman at the game. I will not infer her age. I don't know what it was. But
Between 0 and 100.
60s probably. 60s, yeah. And she was just giving the most electric dance moves on the
It
Jumbotron.
was amazing.
And like the first time she went
Can
on
you
there,
demonstrate?
it kind of went off a little quick.
Yeah.
And then the second time, the place just exploded. And then
Yeah.
the third time, and I think she got on there 4 times.
More than 4.
It
was a lot.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And
no.
like she was on there at one point for like 45 seconds.
yeah.
Like almost
That's what
the
you
entire
need, though,
time out.
sometimes. That's
It
what
was
you
awesome.
need. You need some of those,
Exactly.
the extra factors, the sixth man, as they say.
Yeah.
She was.
I mean, she
Yeah.
definitely was, but I was down there because I was at the advertising table right by the bench. The team wasn't looking up at the Jumbotron. I think they needed to look up
Yeah,
at
you
that.
need to
Yeah.
look up and be
You
like,
would've-
all right.
They would have started it. They would have gotten the momentum just from that lady.
Mackenzie makes that
but-
shot if he sees
Yep,
it.
He
Mackenzie
sees that and
makes
he's like, all right,
shot.
boys, let's
Exactly.
roll.
Yep.
Exactly.
Can't let her down.
This is another game that had a weird for the opposing team, another weird post game press conference because it's
Uh-huh.
like someone wants to ask, be like, "Hey, Mick, you gonna take this job?" When he's like, "I still have a season to coach,
Yeah.
and this is still Mike Woodson's job," and I think he handled that well. But it's just the fact that these questions are getting thrown out. It's like, come on,
I
guys.
know. It's like,
I know they're doing their jobs as reporters or whatever you credentialed as these days, but
yeah.
let the man live. Let the man coach his team for
Yeah.
the meantime.
I
Yeah.
mean, the outcome of the season is only apparent for one of those teams. So you don't have to try and make it all messed up for the other team. But kind of moving on, I know we talked about it was obviously crunch time that lost it for Indiana in this game. But what are these glaring issues and what are the reasons as to why it's not working for Indiana in crunch time?
You want to go?
Who wants to go?
You
Yeah,
wanna-
I mean, I just from what I see, I think you can tell when a team is prepared in moments like that. What was really glaring to me was Michigan State.
Mhm.
They had a decent sized lead with a couple minutes left in the game. Michigan State had a lot of fouls to give, and Indiana just let it get way too close. And when you have a lead like that, you have to have your guards on a rope. You have to have them on a string together, working the ball past half court. And then when you get past half court, settle everything down. They didn't do a good job of that. And then in the games when they've been trying to fight back, when they get there and get those opportunities, it just doesn't seem like they've been prepared for it. Like as if,
Mhm.
like a football team on a 2-minute drive and they just didn't practice
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
And so, when plays have needed to be made all season in those moments, they haven't made them.
Yeah.
And Miles Rice just has not made any shot in the clutch
Mm.
yet. And he's taken a couple of them.
He's taking a couple.
Yeah. He's taking a
Forced
couple.
a couple, as they say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna say it's the mental aptitude. And I mean, the one sample size of it being successful in the late game is Ohio State.
Yeah.
Get the game to overtime. Luke Goody hits the shot to take the lead in overtime. It's like, oh wow, close game. That's their first close game of the season, and they won it. And then you see the Maryland game, the Purdue game, the Michigan game.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan State was on the positive end, but still it was a lead that they gave up towards the end. And then, of course, against UCLA, and it's like they get down in these games, they bring it back, and then it's almost like a panic. Like, oh my gosh, we could do it. Rather than like, all right, stick to what you've been doing. It's they try and change it up. It's like, stay locked in.
Yeah.
Keep your mentals focused. And I don't know if that's preparation. I don't know if it's just the angst of those moments, but it seems so. They're getting back in these games. It looks fluid. It looks like good basketball. And then you come in the last 90 seconds, and it's a frenzy. It's panic. It's frantic. And
It's like not fouling against Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Miles Rice bolting down the court against
Yeah.
Purdue. And it's like, what? Like, lock in
Yeah.
for a second.
I mean, they got the fouling against Michigan State, and then you win the game.
Yeah.
Like, they completely changed the way that they play in those crunch time minutes against Michigan State. Look how it works out. I think it, again, all goes back to they can't play all 40 minutes of a game. Indiana's a clear, this is an obvious statement, Indiana's a clear second-half team, just not when it's close in the last 4 minutes. That's when they completely begin to just put it all out there. I don't know if it's them putting out all of their energy in the start of the second half, but then you see the most effort from this team kind of being exerted in spurts, and then it's not working.
They're a second 19-minute team.
They're a second 19-minute team. But really the only game you could argue that they played all 40 minutes was either Purdue or Michigan State. You look at that, those are their best 2 games of the season. So I know it sounds obvious, but I don't know like what else you can say at this point. They just need to figure out what works, even though you're nearing the postseason. I think you need to have figured out what works by now. But again, like I said before, they're kind of just one to stick with what works, but they don't kind of figure it out in the times that they need it to work. So I think what they just need to do is figure out a way to balance it for all 40 minutes of the game, not just for the start of the second half, and then exert all your energy for the end of the second half, because that's when most teams that you're going to face brings more of the energy, and then that's where they're falling.
5 games left. That's it.
5 games left.
Well, in a Big Ten tournament, but like 5 games.
What's crazy is Indiana's, I don't even know if they're technically out of it.
If they go 4-1, they are now.
No, you got to win all 5 games.
No, if they go 4-1, they're now in the conversation of those next 4 teams out.
No,
in a couple Big Ten
you
tournament
have
wins.
Who can
you
they
have
lose
to win
to?
5.
You have to win all 5.
No, you
It'll
can't
lose.
lose Purdue.
Yeah, you can lose to
No.
You
Purdue.
have to have that good win.
You need to win at home. You need to win at home. You already lost to them, and
But you go out west and beat Oregon. Well, I know Washington's not good, but Oregon on the road, is that
You have to have the Purdue win.
It would have been earlier, but I don't think
know
anymore.
if it is anymore.
Yeah.
You have to have the Purdue win, and then any of those remaining 4 games are bad losses.
Okay, but 4-1 and you lose to Purdue. Now you're in the conversation to be in the conversation.
No.
Yes.
I think you have to win.
With enough.
You have to win all 5 games, and you have
yeah.
to win at least 2 Big Ten conference games and maybe 3.
No, if they win 5 and then win 2 Big Ten conference games, they would be a 12 seed. I could very well see them being a play-in 12 seed.
So you're saying they win 5 straight and then they lose in the first round?
No, they would have to win a Big Ten tournament game probably, maybe 2 if they win 5 in a row. Now if they win 4,
if
they go 4-1, they for sure have to win 2.
That's like the same thing, but last season. They win a Big Ten tournament game, but then you lose by 30 to Nebraska.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it completely just threw it away. So it depends on maybe if it's a close loss. I don't think
if they had beaten Nebraska, they probably. I actually have no idea.
All right.
No.
We're getting way too.
If you win 4 of 5,
Yeah.
I don't think you get in no matter what you do in the Big Ten tournament.
What?
You have to win at least 3 games.
That's 10-10 in the conference. That's not horrible.
I know
the Big
if you
Ten's
win
not
5
like-
straight, if you close the season out 5 straight and you win 2 in the Big Ten tournament, I think you're in. No question.
Okay, but if you go 4-1 and win 3 in the Big Ten tournament, then
You're
you're
probably
knocking off like legit teams in the Big Ten tournament at that point.
Yeah.
You'd probably knock off 2 good teams at least.
But
It just depends
I
on
just
how
don't know
the
if I
bracket's
can.
gonna-
I don't know if I can argue any of the 5 remaining games.
Purdue at
you can
home.
lose. You can't lose. You have to have that quality.
think
I know
you
you
have
have
to.
to, but it's like
You have to
if
have
you were
that
if you were to
tier 1 win.
choose a game to lose of the next 5,
Because
that
how
would
many-
be the one.
How
That
many
would be the
good
one.
wins do they have?
Michigan State.
Okay,
Yeah, you can't say South Carolina. They're kind of
Yeah,
horrible.
You can't
No.
say South Carolina.
Michigan State, like Ohio State at the time,
At the time,
maybe.
at the time.
Yeah. I mean, now you're looking at the rest of the season. Penn State, Washington, those are the 2 teams at the bottom of the conference right now.
Have to win those 2. no matter
Ohio
what.
State, borderline. They're playing better, but again, still you win on the road. I just don't think there's a game on here. You have to win all of these. And
Yeah.
I think you have to win by not a small margin.
And you know what that says about Indiana if they beat Purdue? With Purdue on this 3-game skid, what longest and how long did you guys say? it
5
was?
years.
5 years.
Yeah.
People look at that in 2 ways. Of one, Purdue is not very good right now, and okay, Indiana just won a big game, so I think you have to win that. If you lose that game, in my opinion, the season's over.
Okay, well, I mean, this is going to be a big topic of conversation for the next couple of weeks. But as we're kind of talking
Until they
a little
lose
bit,
on Wednesday in the Big Ten tournament.
Until they lose to Penn State next
Oh my
week.
gosh.
All right. Well, we can still talk about it, but let's, as we were talking about Purdue, let's kind of take a look back at that game on January 31st. It's going to play a big part as to what kind of happens in this game. So, what stuck out from that and what went wrong? I guess I'll start. I have like a little bit to say, but I think This one is just a little bit different because they were playing consistently well throughout the game, and Indiana obviously hasn't been doing that for the most part of this season. But then when they fell back was in the start of that second half, and usually that's when they're playing their best. When they let Kaufman-Renn take that 7-0 run by himself to give Purdue the lead back, obviously they threw them off, but then again, they went on to play one of their best halves, if not their best half. They shot 58% from the field for the remainder of the half. I think the only glaring thing that you can say went wrong was how they kind of, again, handled it in the later minutes. I think just miscommunication everywhere. I don't know if anyone will ever know if Mike Woodson was trying to call that timeout, if that was the original play call. No one's going to ever know. But the calls in the late minutes aren't working, and I think it clearly showed in this one.
Yeah, the biggest thing about that game was how Braden Smith, this guy's a hooper.
Yeah.
For sure. Probably the best player in the Big Ten. Likely the All-American point guard in all of college basketball this year, and probably going to be a front runner for National Player of the Year next year. Yeah. He turned his game because he can get buckets, but like he's a pass first guy. He wants to create for his teammates. This was a game where it's like, all right, they're shutting down the lanes, they're shutting down my options. He took matters into his own hands and put up 27, 25, something like that. He had a great outing.
24.
24. Wow. All right. Strikeout. First strike. 24 points. But still, that's above his season average. And he was just taking tough jumpers, a fadeaway jump. And he's small. He's like 3 inches taller than me. He's a small guard.
That's not small.
5'11", 6 foot as a guard?
No, I was just saying.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, he made Miles Rice look tall, but he was just that was something that really stood out is the fact that he was able to create so much. And that's why I just think, like, Purdue is still a good team. Yeah. They're just on a skid right now. And then, of course, when you have a two-man attack like Smith and Kaufman-Renn to put up whatever, 49 total? I don't know what. Now I'm going to get caught up in the math. I don't know what Kaufman
I
had.
knew this. It's 47. You were close.
Oh, gosh, wow.
47.
All right, I got to stop throwing these numbers around with that.
No, it's fine. You'll be right.
But, yeah. 47 from that tandem, that's a recipe for success, especially when it's your best two players doing that. Trey Galloway, that was something that really stood out to me. That's kind of when he earned his minutes back. When he took matters into his own hit. That second half, it was a great second half. You know, they go down 6. Mackey was thumping at that point, and he was like, calm the storm a little bit. Made it a game throughout the whole 40 minutes. And that goes into this next one is like Trey Galloway really needs to be the guy that is taking control of this game because he knows what it takes to beat this team. Leal was on the team and so was Renew, but like Trey Galloway was the guy getting minutes, putting up points when it was mattering, when they were actually competing with Purdue at the highest level. Obviously they did compete, but it's like that was a different game. I mean, Indiana was on a losing streak. Purdue was still, top 10 in the country at the time. So Trey Galloway had a solid game, but yeah, if they're not able to stop Braden Smith just getting to his spots, putting up shots, it's going to be another long game.
Well, I mean, I don't think you're a true Indiana Hoosier basketball player until you beat Purdue.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of the rite of passage to get into that list. But
then Archie's guys aren't even Indiana basketball players.
Well, that's just my take. But I think you said everything correct about the previous game. I think we'll talk about what needs to happen on Sunday for Indiana to win. But the only thing I want to touch on is just it shows how much of a divide there is between the team and Woodson, I think, at times. That last possession, on the road, you're not having a great season. The other team's having a good season. On the road, 11 seconds left down 1. I don't think there's a coach in the nation who doesn't call a timeout there. And not only that, with the caliber of basketball player and point guard that, Miles Rice is labeled as, I'm not sure there's a point guard in that situation either who probably doesn't run over to his team's bench and get that timeout called. I think when you're, at that point he was 0 for 6 of shooting, 1 for 6 of shooting.
That was his first 2 minutes of the half too.
He only played because Anthony Leal fouled out. He hadn't played at all in the second half.
Yeah, okay, so he was 0 for 4 in the game. That's just a terrible shot. And I don't want to make it more than it is, but I think that's a hero ball shot.
Yeah.
And somebody has to take control in that situation. And it's got to be Woodson. Woodson's got to be screaming at the ref to get a timeout. And then
the issue is a player has to call a timeout in that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah. Granted,
Which-
he was on the other side of the
I've
court,
I've
but
rewatched
still,
it a
you
he
couple
have
put
a
times.
ref
himself in
near
that
you.
he put himself in that situation.
I've rewatched that final, that shot that Rice took and the sequence.
Well, he didn't actually take a shot. It gets stripped out of his hands before he tried to take a shot.
I've watched Miles Rice antics a couple of times
Okay, that's a good word for
between
it.
Trey Kaufman's 90-foot skyhook. It was like 18 feet, but I like to exaggerate. And then the inbound. That ball needs to go to Trey Galloway. Again, they weren't pressing. That ball needs to go to Trey Galloway.
And how Galloway played it down the stretch.
And then Rice gets it, and you can fully see Trey is facing him doing this, and Rice is just looking forward and just darts once he gets to half court on the opposite side of Woody. That ball needs to get to Galloway or just Rice take it over the other side. Now with the timeout, I agree. Yes, they 100% should have called a timeout, but there are moments where it's like you can settle down for 3 seconds and then make your move. But that was not the time and place to do that. Not the person to be doing that.
No.
If Galloway had the ball, I think it's a
He's-
different story.
Him and Woodson are next to each other within seconds.
I also
And
think
it's a timeout.
I think if Galloway has the ball, you can go without calling a timeout. I'm not upset. I don't think Indiana
you're at
fans are
home,
upset.
If you're at home, go get a bucket. But if you're at Mackey Arena, no, you gotta call timeout.
I don't know.
I'd be interested to have a poll of coaches.
I think if Galloway has the ball, you can almost leave that up to a coin toss because of how hot he was. He was getting to his spots. He had 9 seconds to work with.
Yeah, but I mean, you can call your timeout and get a play set for it.
I still think the timeout's the better play, but the shot, I don't think it would have been as upsetting if a shot was taken.
If it's Galloway, I'm not upset.
Because I honestly
as
think he
much
goes down
about
to
the shot, but I still think you
Yeah.
gotta call timeout.
Timeout should have been called, but Galloway should have had the ball.
Right. Either way.
Well, I'm sure Indiana will find itself in another situation like that on Sunday, so we can talk more about it next week. But as we look into Sunday, what does Indiana need to do to win this game?
I kind of alluded to it. We've mentioned Trey Galloway.
Exactly, Trey
This is his. I know there's handful 3 home games left. Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
4 maybe. No, 3
No,
because
3.
they're
Yeah.
at Oregon at Washington. 3 home games left. This is the one for him. It's like if you're gonna go out with a bang.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows how to play against Matt Painter. He knows how to play up to that level of competition, rivalry game. He understands the meaning of rivalry as compared to some of these guys are just like, oh, it's
Mhm.
another basketball game. And that I understand the mentality of that and how important that is to treat every game the same. But there is a level that is raised when it is a ranked rival. That's just how it is mentally. And I think he understands that. And that's going to be the guy that's going to have to carry the boats a little bit. He doesn't need to get 20, but a 15-point outing, 8 assists, that is how you win right there. Is he puts up a good stat line, keeps the ball in his hand. He should be running the point he should play all 40 minutes, honestly.
He almost did
Yeah.
for UCLA.
He should.
Yeah. I agree. I think he's the guy who's been there before. And when it gets to this point, you got to trust the guy who's been there before. But I also think it's Ballo. I just think Purdue's a small team. And Ballo when they were getting him
He had a
involved,
good- he had a good
wasn't in
game.
foul trouble. He was playing well in that first game. And, someone we haven't even talked about, Malik Renew played 8 minutes and fouled out with 3 turnovers against Purdue the first time. Malik Renew had his
How
best
is
game.
that possible?
That's either a turnover or a foul
A
every
minute.
minute.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It's
He really
crazy.
checks into the game with 2 fouls, doesn't he?
He does. But, the UCLA game was the best game he's had since he's been back. I think even Renew. Between Renew or Ballo, I think they got to combine for 30 points.
I think now that Renew's a little healthier, that can help
Yeah.
out. Because
Yeah.
he
He
was
was
not.
not.
No. He
He
wasn't
was
at all.
not.
He wasn't at all.
And to your point about Ballo, him and Trey Kaufman-Renn were kind of trading buckets in that game.
Mhm.
That's the one thing you have to be careful because TKR is a very good big.
Mm.
He's a little shorter than Ballo is and a little undersized as
Yeah.
far as just weight to weight distribution, but he's good and he's
Yeah.
talented. He showed it. I mean, that shot that he hit was ridiculous.
Mhm.
And
He's become, he wasn't this Trey Kaufman.
well, you can see what happens when you work behind a 2-time National Player of the Year.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're doing that
Mhm.
every day, he's going to be able to hit some tough
Yeah.
shots.
It took some time, but
He's developed well.
developed
Hey,
very,
it's the Painter
very
system, man. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Grabs
No.
the Indiana guys and turns them into studs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And keeps guys there for a while.
Keeps them there.
Mhm.
Look at their team. I mean,
Yeah.
that's almost all Purdue got. Did they have a transfer? I don't know if they added a transfer this year.
Probably.
They might have, but
They
not in their
had
starting
to.
lineup.
No.
But yeah, I'm kind of curious on if they do kind of try and utilize that two big lineup because obviously, like we said, Malik Renew was not healthy in that matchup. But he is a lot more healthy today. So, but I think the obvious, you guys have both touched on it, containing Braden Smith, but they also obviously need a game plan for Trey Kaufman-Renn. The two of them, like we said before, 47 of Purdue's 81 points in that last matchup. And whenever Indiana fell back in that game, it was when Trey was playing well or Braden was playing well. So I'm curious on what the matchups are going to be on that. I don't know if they're going to try and switch Renew and Ballo on that matchup down low or just have one of them stick to it. I don't even know how that defensive scheme is going to work because I don't know if they're going to be focusing on zone more because it
No
worked for
transfers.
Michigan State. No transfers.
Sorry,
there
I
we go.
just had to
No, you're
fact check
good.
myself.
You're good. But obviously, Purdue's looking for a get-right game. And with them being on their first 3-game losing streak in 5 years against their rival, I don't see them not playing one of their best games of the season on Sunday. And then Indiana's literally just looking to defend their home court. They haven't won since January 8th in Assembly Hall against USC. So that's 4 games. That's a month, over a month,
It's
almost
the most
2
in
months.
6 years.
Into 6 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
And actually, they lost 5 in a row 6 years ago, and the 5th was to Purdue.
Okay, well, there you go. We were talking about that before the podcast, so now we know. Obviously, the stakes are higher for this game than the one on January 31st. I think the biggest thing on what Indiana needs to do is they need to make sure that they're not exhausting all of their energy on one single moment. They need to play like they played in West Lafayette. You have the energy of Assembly Hall behind you, and you just need to make sure you're not letting anything else get to you. You don't have the loudness of Mackey Arena around you. So just make sure you're playing together, communicating, playing all 40 minutes of the game. I think it's honestly that simple. But
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think matchup wise. I think Indiana can survive putting Ballo on Caleb first, but I don't know if Renew is going to work on Kaufman-Renn. But I don't know if you put Mbako on him either.
Yeah.
I don't know who that matchup is. I think they can combine to handle Smith. Smith fixed the game in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I worry for Indiana against Kaufman-Renn, especially with how he's playing now. I mean, he had 23 in the first matchup, and he wasn't playing as good a ball as he is now, even on their 4-game skid.
I mean, Trey Kaufman-Renn is the one thing that really glaringly stood out to me in that last matchup is he was shooting 10 for 13 from the field. And that was pretty much the whole reason that Indiana kind of lost it, especially in the beginning of the second half. So I think, obviously, you look at Braden Smith. You have to make sure you're containing Braden Smith. But from what they experienced in that first matchup, I don't see how you're not putting the main focus on Trey Kaufman-Renn. And I'm sure that they're seeing that he's playing better as of late. But again, I just don't know how they figure it out because I know the 2 big lineup was working in Michigan State, but it's not working for the rest of the season. So I think it's just trying to figure out which one of them. Again, like you said, I don't think it's going to be Renew. So I think you're just going to have to make sure Ballo's on top of it. He's playing one of his better games this season. He needs to play like he was playing down that stretch in the beginning of the year. So, yeah, I don't know.
And one big aspect is it's going to probably be sold out. It will be sold out. It's Purdue.
Yeah.
And so
Hey, I heard they're selling free pizza.
Ooh.
They are selling free pizza in the lines. So
did you say selling free pizza?
So they are giving
They're
free pizza.
giving.
They are giving free pizza. So
For the small fee.
with a small fee.
They're giving free pizza for $11.
With the purchase of a water, you can have a free pizza.
Now the water is $15.
Yeah.
No. And the cost is just freezing yourself out because I don't see it being that big of a line as it usually is.
No, nobody's
I
camping
don't even
out
know
at
if people are
1
going
in
to
the
be
morning.
lining
And
up.
no one's camping out considering Purdue's on a 3-game skid. But
Yeah.
like people, this will be.
It'll be the loudest all year.
Yes.
Oh,
It has
yeah.
to.
I mean, as
If
long
it's-
as it starts well.
Yeah.
Now, if Indiana's down 15 after 5 minutes, it
Yeah.
won't.
Well, the only thing,
No, it'll
the
be loud,
weird
just
thing
booze.
Yeah.
I think is definitely going to have been louder in West Lafayette because it's at a 1:30 on a Sunday.
Oh my god.
Which is just
That's, like,
interesting.
disrespectful.
It is
Yeah,
almost a little
why-
disrespectful.
why
that
is
rubs
that-
salt in the
Why
wound
is
of
it
this
not a
season.
Saturday,
Yeah.
like 7 o'clock game or a
Yeah.
Saturday noon game?
I know. I mean, I guess
That's
NFL
what it was like
games
last
are
year,
gone.
right?
Yeah.
Last year was-
last year at Mackey was like Friday night
Yeah.
lights, and you're like, all right, Mackey Arena, and then the
Yeah.
one here is like noon Sunday.
Noon
Yeah.
Sunday. I get that NFL is done, but then why not have Tony Romo, Jim Nance, Tracy Wolfson on the call? But
I don't know, Jim. Zach Edey's looking real good.
But I don't know. I think it's. I don't know. Sorry, we completely
That's not
ruined.
the zone coverage I've seen
that's
before.
2-3 coverage, Jim.
Oh, get in the middle.
Patrick Mahomes
Just
could
like the
dice
tight
him up.
end.
Oh, Braden Smith
Just
passing
run
like
it and
Mahomes. Oh
over,
my gosh.
Gotta throw it over the backer.
Sorry, I completely interrupted you before too.
I don't even know what I was saying. I lost all train of
I lost all train of thought, Jim.
Oh, Jim. Oh, no. They're going to need irrefutable evidence.
Do you
What's
see
out on
these
this
fans,
The tip
Jim?
man. Oh, man,
It's
Jim.
insane in here.
You're kind of adding a little Collinsworth in. Now, here's
The
a guy.
Carnegie Hall of college basketball, Jim. This is incredible.
It's unbelievable.
All right.
I mean, yeah.
Basketball.
No, I lost my train of thought. But yeah,
That Matt
I-
Painter.
overall, Indiana has a disadvantage in the matchup. It's 1:30 on a Sunday. It's just not going to work. So, no Tony Romo, no Jim Nance. They're not on the call. But Thomas Crow and Joe Cronin could be at this point. So.
The man-to-man always works against Miles Rice.
Big third down here, Tony.
Okay.
You got
You
to
gotta
gotta
move
handle
on.
this,
I
Audrey.
don't know. The last thing I have is the score prediction. So unless anyone else has anything,
Score prediction.
you want to go?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so I did a little math, not by myself, by looking it up. Tomorrow will be 1,128 days since Mike Woodson's first ever game against Purdue, when Rob Finney, big shot Bob, as they say, hit the shot. And Mike Woodson's, again, first game against Purdue. First win against Purdue. Since then, he's got a couple other wins under his belt, but he's 3-4 against the Boilermakers, and this is his last game against the Boilermakers. Oh man, am I about to say something crazy here? Let's do it. Let's do it. Indiana will beat Purdue in honor of Mike Woodson's final game. Going out on a sweet note, I guess. I know there's still season left, but this is like, all right,
Okay.
playing for their troops. It's their rival. They're at home. They play them so well at Mackey. They're desperate for a win. Purdue is also desperate for a win. It's going to be a great game. This is going to be a fun one.
It's going to be a good
It
one.
should be loud. It should be fun. And I think Indiana will win 69-67.
69-67.
Low scoring.
Low score.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go 81-76, which actually is the
yeah.
same score as last time.
Original.
There you go.
But it's the Indiana Hoosiers this time, Joe.
Oh, it's going to be a close one.
So yeah, no, I think Ballo or Renew, they need to combine for 35, maybe even 40 points for Indiana to win this. They have not a huge height advantage, but they're bigger down low. I think that's how they win the game. And then, like you guys said, Galloway's got to play well, and it's also probably his last game against Purdue, so
Yeah.
it's gonna
Yeah.
mean something for him too.
Yeah. I'm like stuck because I was on before the basket yesterday and I said Purdue and I did like more looking back and
Hold your ground here.
I don't know. I'm just thinking I think I'm going to change my pick. So, I think I'm going to go and I didn't think this through. So, I'm going to go 79-76. I'm gonna go Purdue. I think Purdue has like they're gonna play one of their best games. I'm sorry, I ruined the graphic. I ruined the graphic. Not that we
Can
have a
she do
graphic.
this, Gene? This isn't the rule book, Gene.
It is not. But
Oh, I
yeah.
can't wait for Gene Steratore and some March Madness.
Oh.
I mean, rules analyst supreme right there.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, I just don't think Purdue's gonna let themselves fall into this. I don't think Matt Painter can do that as a coach, and I think they're going to bounce back. I think Kaufman-Renn once again is going to get the better of this Indiana team. I think it's going to be different. I think they're probably going to have a much more game plan focusing on him, but I don't see it working. But does anyone else have any other thoughts on this matchup, or are we all good?
How are we feeling about little Anthony Leal clutch shot to win?
Hey,
Not a buzzer beater, but
he
ice.
could.
Ice.
He could.
Hey, that's why I'm against Maryland. He had that AM1.
That was like with 4 minutes left.
No, that was like the final 50 seconds, wasn't it? Didn't he have two and ones?
He had 2 and 1s in that
Was
game. I
it?
forget when the second one was.
I'm pretty sure.
I forget when the second
I
one was.
completely.
I mean,
amazing.
yeah.
I
But
don't
they still
know.
lost that game.
Well,
Hey.
but I mean, it was a big shot at the time.
You never know. He did have that half court. Was that Rutgers? I think those Rutgers.
Well, no, he had a half court against Michigan. Leo?
Yeah.
No, yeah,
With,
at
like,
the end of the game.
At the very end of the game.
yeah,
It didn't
Oh,
the
matter.
backdoor
there was that.
the
There was
backdoor
that.
cover against
Well,
Michigan.
again, then he had it twice.
No,
He had,
Leo had an and one with 38 seconds left against Maryland to put him up.
And they still lost that game.
They still lost.
They were-
Still lost that game.
they
They
were
were 4.
four.
They were 4.
Yeah.
Because Galway missed the free throws. And
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I don't know. But we'll just have to see. Maybe there'll be another Anthony Leal half court shot. Maybe at the end of halftime. Maybe just for fun.
That'd be
We'll
cinema,
see.
Jim.
That would be crazy. So I hated that. Let's do
Onions. Double order.
okay. Let me just
Nylon.
E-O-I-O-E-I-O.
To the rim.
With a kiss.
all right. Well,
Sounded
that,
like old MacDonald had a farm there.
we should if we had a sound effect button, that would be how that
Old
closes us out.
MacDonald had a farm. Yeah. Oh, hi.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of Throwing Chairs. Hoosiers are looking to break its 4-game losing streak at home and avenge that heartbreaking loss in West Lafayette on Sunday. As always, the Hoosier Network has you covered for all of your Indiana basketball coverage, so make sure to stay tuned, and we will see you next time.